Out. Already got them loosened up. One. Going to remove this frame to engine mount bracket. It's got 3 bolts in it. We're going to remove these 2, and we're going to loosen this one up. So let's go ahead and get it done. Okay, and you can just swing this mount out of the way. Remove left side engine mount. It's got 3 bolts. Already loosened them up, so let's go ahead and get it done. Okay, next step is to remove this bracket between the engine mount and the frame. It's got 3 bolts. Looks like a 14mm here. It's got 2 12mm bolts here. I already got them loosened up. You just have to loosen this one up, and you got to remove this too. So let me go ahead and get it done. Then we can just swing this bracket out of the way. Unplug the air valve to give us more room to work with. You just press on it and it comes out. And then you can just remove it like so. Unplug the ignition coils. You can get them from either side. But I'm going to show you how it's done from here. You don't have to remove the airbox or none of that. You can get to things from here. You just press on it. It clicks. Remove it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, then you got to remove the ignition coils. You just pull them up, and it's kind of tricky on here. You got to move them forward. This one's out of the way. This one's easy. This one's cake. And the last one. Same way, you have to kind of move it forward, and then it comes out. And everything is done through this hole right here, so you don't have to remove the airbox. So just use a 8mm wrench, get it loosened up, and get it removed. Instead of removing this bracket, for the cam position sensor connector, I'm just going to remove the cam position sensor itself. It's held by a 10mm bolt. I'll remove the cam position sensor. Just rock it back and forth. There it is. You can remove the valve cover itself. So just pick it up and slide it back. Okay, next I'm going to use a small 8mm socket and a short extension and remove these 5 bolts and remove the timing cover of the engine. I already got them loosened up. So all I have to do is just pull them off. Okay, so for the job you're going to need a piece of paper. I wrote down number 1, 2, 3, 4 cylinders. I wrote down the clearances for the exhaust side, clearances for the intake side, and it's in millimeters, and I wrote down spaces where I'm going to put down exactly what I come out with. I got the feeler gauges in metric. I've got them from 0.127mm all the way up to 0.203 millimeters. Anything more than that, I'll pull a bigger one if I have to. You're also going to need a 17mm socket and a ratchet. So you're going to put it on the crankshaft bolt, and we're going to start measuring the clearances. This is a number 1 cylinder. We're going to have 2 lobes. Number 2 cylinder, number 3, number 4 cylinder. Same thing on the exhaust. Don't mess them up. That's why I wrote it down like so. So it's exactly how the engine is, like that. So let's get started. We're going to do number 1 cylinder. So already lined it up. I turned the engine till the lobe is all the way up. So let me come around. Okay, so here's the lobe for a number 1 cylinder. There's also a lobe right under it. They're the same, so we're gonna measure clearances on the number 1 intake cylinder. So we're gonna start with the 0.127mm, the smallest one. All you have to do is just stick it right under it. It goes in real smooth. Then we go and do the same thing on that valve. It goes in real easy. So next we're going to step up to 0.152mm. We're going to do the same thing. It goes in just fine. And this one goes in just fine too. So next we're going to go with the 0.178mm. This one's going in. Let's try. Should be easy to see what I'm doing. This one's going in just fine. So next I'm gonna go with the 0.203. It's not going in this one. So the clearance on this one is between 0.17 and 0.203. So let's call it 0.18. Okay, so we're gonna write down number 1 cylinder, and it's an intake. It's gonna be 0.18 millimeter. And as you can see, it's right between 0.15 and 0.24. So we're this one's is actually good, right on the money. So let's try 0.203 on the valve number 2, and that one, well, barely going in, but really tight. So we're gonna call it 0.19, or like 0.20. So since it's a second valve on the intake side, I'm gonna put down 0.20 millimeter. So it's right where it should be. Let's try to line up cylinder number 2. There's a lobe valve number 1 for cylinder number 2 and valve number 2. So we have to spin the crankshaft to get the lobes to be all the way up. So we're going to do the same thing right here, and never spin the engine in the counterclockwise. Always spin in the clockwise. So as I'm spinning the engine, I'm going to look here, and you see this, the lobes are moving up. And this is going to be just fine. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to do them from here, from the left side of the engine, but I'm going to put the camera right here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But this job can be done without pulling the airbox or any of that stuff. So first, I'm going to take 0.127 millimeter filler gauge, and I'm going to stick it right under it. It goes in, as you can see, nice and easy. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. Same thing, nice and easy. We're going to get a thicker one at 0.152 millimeter. We're going to do the same thing. It's going in real easy. Same thing with that one. Next is a 0.178. It's getting tight. It's not going in, so it's right between 0.15 and 0.178. So let's go ahead and write it down. It was this cylinder number 2, and an intake number 2 was, let's call it 0.16 millimeter. So it's on the tight side, but it's still where it should be. So I wouldn't really mess with it. So let's try the 0.17 on the valve number 1. This one's going in just fine. You can see it over there. So let's step up to 0.203 of a millimeter. And it's not going in. So we're going to call it 0.18. So write down 0.18 of a millimeter. So once again, we're right on the money. We don't have to pull the camshafts. So that's basically what you do. I'm gonna do them for all the cylinders on the intake side and on the exhaust side. And if I find one that's too tight, that means it's gonna be, the specs is gonna be either on the intake below 0.15 or on the exhaust is gonna be below 0.17 of a millimeter. That's gonna be too tight, or it's gonna be too loose. It means it's gonna be 0.24 or like and over on the intake side, or 0.22 and over on the exhaust side. So let me continue doing it. Okay, so I got all the valves measured, and they all ended up within spec. So number 3 cylinder on the intake was pretty close to being pretty tight, but since the shims are within 0.05 of each other, I'm not really gonna mess with these, because if I add 0.05 shim to 0.178, I'll end up at the 0.228 millimeter, which is going to be too loose. So I might just leave them alone unless I decide to swap the camshaft. But as of right now, this is within spec, so it's good to go.